Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeff Rumberg. I'm a managing partner with MetricNet, and I will be your presenter for today's webcast on quality metrics with a focus on customer satisfaction. I want to welcome all of you and thank you for participating in our webcast today. And I want to thank BrightTalk for inviting MetricNet to speak on this topic. Just by way of quick introduction, MetricNet's core business is benchmarking. We perform benchmarks for a variety of industries and functional areas. My role in the company is to manage the service desk, desktop support, and contact center benchmarks for MetricNet. Now, if you're interested, you can download today's presentation and associated attachments. Just click the button there that says Attachments. And we would ask you to rate our webcast and leave any feedback that you would like when you exit the webcast today. Now, for those who are planning to attend HDI's Support World virtual event in August, I would invite you to attend one or both of my sessions. I'll be delivering a 2-day workshop on IT service and support metrics on August 4th through 5th, and then presenting a session on employee engagement on August 12th. Let's go ahead and get started with our webcast. We've got 6 items that I want to cover today. So we're going to start with a primer, a high-level strategic view of the importance of metrics for service desks, for contact centers, and for desktop support organizations. I'm going to introduce you to the 9 success factors in maturing your metrics. We call this the metrics hierarchy. We're going to define customer satisfaction, talk about why it is the single most important measure of quality. We're going to show you some cause and effect diagrams, what drives customer satisfaction, what drives the drivers of customer satisfaction, and then I'm going to share some benchmarking data with you before we conclude our webcast. Now, many of you are probably familiar with this traditional paradigm for contact centers, service desks, and desktop support organizations. It essentially says that people, process, and technology are everything. If you are good about recruiting personnel, training them, giving the tools for success and manage them effectively, and then you build on top of that repeatable, standardized industry best practices and processes, and then you cap it off with technology to automate some of the repetitive tasks, you will be successful with your support organization. But we learned a long time ago that there are organizations that do these 3 things really well, but still do not achieve success with their contact center, their service desk, or their desktop support organization. And what we further realized empirically through observation in having done hundreds of contact center, service desk, and desktop support benchmarks is that the missing foundation block is metrics. Now, I'm not suggesting here that metrics are more important than people, process, or technology, but what I am saying is that it's foundational to the success of any support organization. If you don't have an effective and mature metrics discipline, no matter how good your people, process, and technology paradigm is, you're not going to achieve success, let alone world-class performance. Now, we have empirical proof of this. Let me show it to you here on the next page. We have 106 data points, each of them represented by a blue circle here. The x-axis represents the maturity of the metrics function within a service desk, desktop support, or contact center. The y-axis represents, for this particular set of data, service desk balance score, which can range from 0 to 100%. A balance score aggregates a set of 6 metrics, including customer satisfaction, cost per ticket, agent utilization or analyst utilization, first contact resolution rate, analyst job satisfaction, and some service level metric like speed of answer. It normalizes them and rolls them into a single overall measure of service desk, contact center, or desktop support effectiveness. That score can range from 0 to 100%. Of course, it's higher. As your score goes higher, that represents better performance. So when we look at the regression of metrics maturity on the x-axis on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being most mature, 0 being least mature, we can clearly see the correlation here as metrics become more mature. Moving to the right on the x-axis, we get better outcomes on the y-axis. Moreover, this is not just a spurious correlation, this is cause and effect. We can prove that using a statistical test called the Granger test. You'll notice we've got a lot of data points in the metrics maturity range from 0 to 1, fewer in the range from 1 to 2, fewer still in the range from 2 to 3. In other words, as we move to the right, we get fewer and fewer data points, which is another way of saying that very few organizations really reach their full maturity when it comes to metrics. And it's unfortunate because it doesn't take a lot of time to mature your metrics, but the benefit of doing so is that you are going to see better outcomes in your service desk, your contact center, or your desktop support organization. You can see the correlation. The green dashed line represents a linear regression, but we do know that this isn't just spurious correlation, it is a cause and effect relationship. X-axis, independent variable, you have a lot of control over. Y-axis, dependent variable, so X drives Y, input, X-axis drives output, Y-axis. This is the evidence for metrics as a foundational discipline in your support organization. Now, what I want to do is introduce you to the 9 success factors that are necessary to mature your metrics, regardless of what kind of service organization you run. It starts with having KPIs, and 100% of the organizations we work with do have metrics. Secondly, are you using your metrics for reporting? Only about 90% actually create reports with their metrics. Can you define your metrics? Only about 80% can accurately define all of the metrics that they use in their support organization. Do you set performance targets with your metrics? Only 60% do that, which is surprising and somewhat shocking to me because one of the primary reasons you have metrics is to establish performance targets. Then we get to cause and effect. Only about 30% of those we work with understand the KPI cause and effect relationships. Are you using metrics diagnostically? Simply stated, that means, are you interpreting your metrics correctly? Only about 20% know how to do that. Are you using your metrics prescriptively, meaning do you develop action items or action plans based on your metrics? Only about 10% do that. Do you use metrics to continuously improve? So measuring month over month improvement in your performance, only about 10% do that. And have you achieved world-class performance by leveraging your metrics? Only about 5% do that. Now, the green arrow on the right shows that as you move up the hierarchy, each of these becomes more important. In other words, you realize more value as you move up the hierarchy. So at the bottom of the hierarchy, you're using metrics primarily for observational purposes. You're looking at reports and so on, but you're not acting on the metrics. As you move up the hierarchy, the emphasis is more on interpreting the metrics and then acting on those insights to get on a path of continuous improvement and ultimately achieve world-class performance. This, in a nutshell, represents the success factors required to mature your metrics discipline, whether you're a contact center, a service desk, or a desktop support organization. As much as anything else, this series of webcasts that we've been doing on metrics that matter are designed to help you move up this hierarchy as quickly and as effectively as you possibly can. Now, on page 10, what I'm showing are some fairly common service desk metrics. There are about 20 plus metrics shown on this page. We've organized them into 6 categories. We have cost metrics, quality metrics, productivity metrics, analyst service level, and contact or call handling metrics. Now, this is by no stretch of the imagination a comprehensive list. There are hundreds of metrics out there for service desks and contact centers and desktop support organizations. But these are the metrics we use when we benchmark a service desk. When we benchmark an inbound customer service contact center, we use the same metrics. And when we benchmark a desktop support organization, the metrics look very similar, with the exception of a service level metric we look at in desktop support, which is called MTTR, mean time to resolve. So these are the most common service desk metrics. Well, the good news is you don't have to create a big metrics bureaucracy. You don't have to track all of these metrics just because we use them when we benchmark an organization. The metrics that really matter are shown here on page 11. This is the 80-20 rule. Less is more when it comes to metrics. I've highlighted the 6 metrics that you need to effectively run a service desk or a desktop support organization or a contact center. For desktop support, simply add one more metric, which is mean time to resolve. But the 6 metrics shown on this page can be used to very effectively manage an inbound customer service contact center or a service desk. We have cost per ticket, one of the foundation metrics, which is your primary measure of efficiency. We have customer satisfaction, which we're going to drill down on today, which is your primary measure of effectiveness. We have first contact resolution rate, which drives customer satisfaction. We have analyst utilization, which drives your cost per contact or cost per ticket. We have analyst job satisfaction, which is a secondary driver of just about every other metric on this page. High levels of analyst job satisfaction are correlated with high levels of customer satisfaction. And then we have a service level metric, in this case ASA, but it could be percent of calls answered in 50 or 60 seconds, for example. And again, what we're going to do today is drill down on customer satisfaction. That's really the focus of our webcast today. So let's begin by defining some of the cause and effect relationships that are important, and then we're going to define customer satisfaction. So if we look at our two foundation metrics, cost per unit of work, that might be cost per call, cost per ticket, cost per contact, for example, and customer satisfaction, kind of the yin and yang of service and support. Customer satisfaction is your primary efficiency metric, and cost per ticket or cost per contact is your primary measure of efficiency. Now, customer satisfaction is driven primarily by first contact resolution, secondarily by call quality and job satisfaction, and then the tertiary drivers are coaching, career pathing, and training, because those three impact job satisfaction and call quality, which in turn impact your FCR and your customer satisfaction. Understanding this KPI cause and effect diagram is fairly important, because if you know what drives customer satisfaction, you can take the necessary measures to improve your FCR, to improve your call quality, to improve your analyst or technician job satisfaction, thereby getting a higher level of customer satisfaction. So this cause and effect diagram shows the ecosystem of metrics for a typical inbound customer service contact center or a typical service desk. Looks very similar for desktop support. I would encourage you to study this, because if you understand these cause and effect relationships, it puts you in a very powerful position to pull the levers you need to pull in order to achieve desired outcomes. That desired outcome might be higher customer satisfaction, better first contact resolution rate, lower cost per ticket, better analyst utilization. It could be a lot of things, but this helps you understand how you can achieve those desired outcomes. Let's define customer satisfaction. Let's say that I send out a lot of surveys to a contact center or a service desk, and I get back 1,000 responses in a month. In other words, 1,000 completed customer satisfaction surveys. Let's further assume that 800 of those completed surveys are customers who say they are either satisfied or very satisfied with the service they received from my contact center or my service desk or my desktop support organization. 800 divided by 1,000 is 80%, so that would equate to a customer satisfaction of 80%. It's that simple. Now, the mechanism for engaging in a customer satisfaction might be your ITSM system, might be your CRM system, which sends out an email and asks the customer to respond to the customer sat survey. They could be flash surveys that are completed at the conclusion of a transaction where the customer pushes buttons on their phone to answer a few questions, or they could actually be interview surveys where you contact customers over the phone or chat with them to get their reaction to the survey, or get their responses to the service that they received. But it's a real straightforward metric, and make no mistake about it, it's still the most important quality metric when it comes to delivering service. We're aware of customer effort and net promoter score and all these customer experience indices, but you can get 90% of the value of something that's much more complicated by just looking at customer satisfaction. This is, always has been, and always will be the single most important measure of quality. I'm not against net promoter score or customer effort score or some customer experience index. I'm not against those things, but they do add work to an organization. And we're very much in favor of helping you get metrics in place with a minimum of effort and a maximum of insight. Customer satisfaction does that for you. It is the single most important measure of quality. So I would encourage you, if you're not measuring this metric, put in place a mechanism to start measuring customer satisfaction. Let me show you an example of a customer sat survey. And I'm in no way endorsing this or saying that this is what your survey needs to look like. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just using this to make a few points. The first point is that you'll notice that there's just a limited number of questions, only 4 questions here. The second point is that the last question is the one that matters the most, because it says, overall, I was satisfied with my interaction with the service desk. Now you can respond, or the respondent can answer 1 through 5, 1 being strongly disagree with that statement, 5 being strongly agree with that statement. And again, to continue with our example of the 1,000 returned customer satisfaction surveys per month, if 800 of those respondents give you a 4 or a 5, that's going to be an 80% customer satisfaction rating. Now, this 1 through 5 is a very common scale. Some variation of that is typically encouraged. 1 through 7 is not a good idea. 1 through 4 is generally not a good idea. And 1 through 10 is not a good idea because most customers can't distinguish between a 7 and an 8 or a 9 and a 10. So 1 through 5 is kind of a de facto standard in the industry. You need a single question that asks the customer overall what their level of satisfaction was. And finally, I would encourage you to include a free-form field in your customer satisfaction survey where you ask the customer to comment on anything else. Oftentimes, this is where you learn the most, not from the 1 through 5 responses, but through the verbatim comments. That is, the comments that a customer makes. They might say, they might compliment a particular agent or analyst. They might give you some suggestions as to how you can deliver a higher quality of service. But this does not have to be a complicated mechanism, complicated survey, or a complicated issue. And by the way, the typical response rate for an emailed customer satisfaction survey for a contact center or a service desk or desktop support is only about 5% or less. So if you're wondering, gee, we send out 10,000 surveys and only get back a couple hundred or 500, for example, well, you're like everyone else. 5% is about the average, but it ranges from a low of around 1% to a high of maybe 8 or 9%. Almost nobody gets more than 10% response rate on their customer satisfaction surveys. Now, what I'm going to do beginning on page 15 is show you a set of correlation charts. Correlation simply means that there is a relationship between the X variable and the Y variable. X is known as the independent variable, so in every case this represents the driver or the input. Y represents the dependent variable or the output, so X drives Y, input drives output. And in this particular case, we're showing analyst job satisfaction versus customer satisfaction in the voice channel. Analyst is the term we use for a frontline person in a service desk. So this represents for a service desk, analyst job satisfaction versus customer satisfaction in the voice channel. The higher the analyst job satisfaction, the higher the customer satisfaction. So when you hear the old adage, happy agent or happy analyst equals happy customer, this is the empirical proof of this. These are not just spurious correlations. These are cause and effect relationships. The blue dots are data points, and the green line represents the linear regression through those data points. Now let's look at agent job satisfaction. We use the term agent when we refer to a frontline worker in a contact center. So the prior page was service desk. This page is contact center. Again, x-axis independent variable, key driver of the y-axis dependent variable. Your output would be your voice customer satisfaction for a contact center. Once again, you can see the correlation here, green line linear regression. Moreover, we know from the Granger test that this is a cause and effect relationship. So as agent job satisfaction increases in a contact center, that drives higher levels of voice customer satisfaction. And then we have technician job satisfaction. We use the term technician to refer to desktop support. So this represents the technician job satisfaction in desktop support versus customer satisfaction. Once again, you see the correlation and the causation here. As job satisfaction improves, we get better outcomes on customer satisfaction. So once again, the idea that happy agents, happy analysts, and happy technicians drive customer satisfaction turns out to be true. We've been able to show that empirically on the last 3 charts. Now let's look at the relationship between first contact resolution rate in a service desk or a contact center for that matter, same correlation, same relationship, versus customer satisfaction in the voice channel. As FCR goes up, move to the right on the x-axis, you get better outcomes on your voice customer satisfaction. Once again, blue diamonds or blue circles are data points, and the green dashed line represents a linear regression. Now, if we look at first contact resolution rate in the chat channel, x-axis, once again, we get better outcomes on the y-axis, higher customer satisfaction. So customers really want first contact resolution rate in their service desk, in their contact center, and it turns out in desktop support. And that's what we're showing right here on page 20. First contact resolution rate for incidents, you know, there are both incidents and service requests, but the first visit to the customer or the device, that's why we call it incident first visit, not first contact, but it is first contact. Incident first visit resolution rate, x-axis drives customer satisfaction, y-axis. Turns out the customers really want first contact resolution rate, and they're willing to forgive you an occasional abandoned call, long speed of answer, abandoned chat, or an occasional long MTTR, mean time to resolve in desktop support if when they get to contact a technician, an analyst, or an agent, they reach a high quality analyst, agent, or technician as measured by first contact or first visit resolution rate. So that's what these correlation charts were telling us, is that first of all, analyst, technician, and agent job satisfaction drive high levels of customer satisfaction, and your first contact or first visit resolution rate in desktop support or a contact center or a service desk are what drive your customer satisfaction as well. So we have two big drivers here, agent job satisfaction and your first contact or first visit resolution rate. Let me now share some benchmarking data with you for service desks, contact centers, and desktop support. The metric in each case is customer satisfaction, and we're showing data from 2019 and the first 3 months of 2020. The average customer satisfaction for a service desk is about 84%. For a contact center, it's about 85.5%, and for desktop support, it's about 86%. The minimum, that is the low scores that we see, this is based on hundreds of data points. The low scores we see for a service desk are about 46% customer satisfaction, which is not a good number, of course, 55% customer satisfaction in a contact center, and for desktop support, we see 64% customer satisfaction at the low end. At the high end, maximum, way over here on the right, for service desk, it's over 99%, 99.3%. For contact center, it's almost 99%, it's 98.5%. And for desktop support, we have 99% as the maximum. Again, lots and lots of data points, maximum customer satisfaction of 99% in desktop support. What we generally encourage our clients to do when we conduct a benchmark for them is to encourage them to get into the top quartile on customer satisfaction. For a service desk, the top quartile is about 93%, meaning 93% and above puts you in the top quartile. For contact center, it's about 92%. That is 92% and above gets you into the top quartile for an inbound customer service contact center. And then finally, for desktop support, the number is about 94%. So if you're 94% or above customer satisfaction in your desktop support organization, that's going to get you into the top quartile. Now, before we conclude our webcast, I want to make a couple of quick announcements. First of all, I want to invite you to visit our website at the web address shown in the middle of this page and take a look at the headcount, budget, and ROI calculators that we offer, as well as a template for service desk and contact center balance scorecards. These are tools that can be used by any contact center or technical support professional to either right size your contact center or service desk, or determine whether or not you have the right budget for your contact center or service desk. And then we have the ROI calculator that for service desks allows you to determine the return on investment for your particular service desk. Now, MetricNet's webcasts are always free of charge. And if you like what you've heard today, I would encourage you to go to our website to sign up for future webcasts. I'll be doing a live Q&A and discussing agent metrics next month in 2 separate webcasts. And then the Balance Scorecard webcast is scheduled for the month of July. Now, if you're interested, once again, you can download today's presentation and the associated attachments. Just click the attachments button. And we'd ask you to rate our webcast and leave any feedback that you would like when you exit the webcast. Please keep in mind that we'll be presenting at HDI's Support World virtual event in August. The 2-day metrics workshop will be on August 4th and 5th, and then my session on employee engagement will be on the 12th of August. Thank you very much. I hope you found today's webcast to be informative and insightful. This concludes our webcast on Metrics That Matter, Customer Satisfaction.